Hello and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. I'm your tutor, Hafiz Arsalan Shibbir. First of all, please confirm, do you hear my voice? You have a question box. It's very clear and loud. Welcome Fatma, welcome Kauser, Sahir, Rohaina, Asif, Karan, Saqib. Yes, thank you. Thank you. It means today's there is no issue of voice. Great, great. I hope you are all doing well and everyone is safe and sound at your homes. Uh, Before going to start the today's agenda, uh, we will going to discuss about the yesterday's highlights. Then we are going to discuss today's topic, which is also very important, and that topic is internal controls. Our yesterday's discussion based on the you can say about the different aspects of the exam in which we cover we have covered the examiner approach, and the examiner approach is why the examiner is tested you in audit and assurance paper, double A paper. So what are the logics behind this exam, behind this paper? So we have discussed about this examiner approach. That was the knowledge and understanding of the process of carrying out the assurance application. There are many factors which we have discussed yesterday why the examiner is interested to place that paper in the ACCA list. Afterwards, we have discussed about the structure of the paper, in which we have discussed like three case-based objective test questions. There were 30 marks of first section, and the section B contains 70 marks, in which you will face 3 questions based on 70 marks. Then we have discussed about the time spending allocation, read, plan, and answer. The crux of this slide was 1.8 minute per mark you have to attempt the all paper. So you have 1.8 minute per mark. That's the crux which we have discussed yesterday. I'm just giving the highlights for the students who were absent last day. Then we have discussed why did you fail in the exams. There were many reasons. So we have discussed if you failed in different slabs, then what's the reason of that failure. So these are the different slabs we have discussed last day. My recording is available in the WhatsApp group as well, and in on the Vimeo channel. Then we have discussed about the tips for success, what you need to do to be successfully complete your exams in December 2020. So these are the tips which we had discussed already in the yesterday's session. Then we had discussed about the what are the most tested topics in the first section and what are the most tested topics in the section B. So based on this analysis, we have shortlisted few topics which covered most of your course. So if you grab that topics in today's session and in the next coming 3 sessions, so you will have the maximum chances that you can pass that paper. Next, we have discussed that the section B is the worst area for the students because examiners said in their article that section B is the very critical area which the students is always lacking in attempting this section. So we had to focus on section B and we are focusing it. Last day we had discussed about the audit risk. What are the audit risks? In risk, we had discussed like audit risk is equal to inherent risk into control risk into detection risk. Then we had discussed different components of the audit risk and what are the mistakes done by the students in this question. So I have specifically highlighted the mistakes in this slide so that students cannot be ignored in the next attempt, in the coming attempt. So these are the mistakes which are commonly done by the students. I have highlighted it as well as we had done practice in the yesterday's session, and we have made a complete one question in which I got the feedback from the students. Most of the students, even majority of the students, got the knowledge, got the skills how to attempt this specific question, audit risk. So last day when I got the feedback, I am very happy that most of the students resolved their issues. Now they are clear, their all problems, confusions has been cleared, and now the topic is on their fingers to solve that question in the coming attempt. So what about our today's discussion is based on internal controls. We are going to discuss the topic internal controls. The question which is tested in the exams is approximately like 15 to 20 mark question is come on the internal controls. Like you have been tested, you are going to be tested on this topic about 15 to 20 marks. And the topic which we have discussed last day, audit risk, the question on the audit risk uh, comes at like tested on like you can say 20 to 25 marks. So in total you are going to be prepared on these two topics, and the worth of these topics in the exams is about 40 to 45 marks. So you should be focused in the today's section like you were focused in the last discussion which we have done yesterday. So I need your complete focus. I need your complete attention. I know there are many problems in this topic as well. I I drilled these problems and highlighted in the slides. So please arrange the one pad and copy and pencil with yourself. If I will give you another tips, you have to write down it. So first of all, we are going to discuss the definition of the internal control. What are the internal controls? Is there anyone in the listeners who volunteer tell me what are the internal controls? What are you thinking? I would like to know about your knowledge, about your thinking. So please give me your feedback about the definition of internal controls. What do you think? What it is? More. I need more feedbacks. I need more answers from your side. Yes, kind are policies and procedures performed by management to detect fraud. A little bit correct. Saracram, correct errors and fraud put by management. Okay. Rahina, policy made to detect error. Okay. Policies implemented by the management. Okay. There are many answers given by the students. Most of them are right, but now I'm going to discuss the exact definition and exact knowledge of the internal controls. Internal controls basically are the processes processes are designed, implemented, and maintained by management. Internal controls are basically the processes which are designed, implemented, and maintained by the management to prevent and detect the error and fraud. We can say both elements, error and fraud, not only error, not only fraud. So, internal controls are designed and implemented and maintained by the management to prevent and detect from the fraud. Okay, so this is the generic definition, but I will give you some examples. After these examples, you will be able to understand what are the internal controls. One example is gate entry. First example, if you people face experience whenever you go into the organization, whenever you go into the organization the security sitting at the door stop you and ask you to show your identity and ask you to show your identity. So what do you think? What's the objective of the security guard to stop you? That is, what is the objective? Objective is prevent the unauthorized access in an organization. Prevent the unauthorized access in an organization. So this is the what is this is the control objective. This is the entity's objective, that is prevent the unauthorized person from the organization. Okay. So how the management control this? What is the internal control that the management put in place to achieve that objective? To achieve that objective. So management plays the internal control in the shape of security guard. So whenever any newcomer comes into the organization, security guard asks their identity, and after the clearance, that person can come into the organization. So the entity's objective is to prevent the unauthorized access. And what is the internal control? Internal control is security guard is in place who will stop and identify and clear the identity of any newcomer. After his clearance, that person can come into the premises of the organization. So now we have discussed at this stage only two things. We have discussed only two things, that is the entity objective, or you can say control objective. You can say control objective. And the other thing is we have discussed, that is the internal control placed by the management. Now, I will come another example. Please listen to my words and be focused. Now, this is example for you. I will tell you the internal control, and you people will tell me about the control objective behind this control. I again repeat, I will tell you the internal control which is placed by management, and you have to tell me what is the entity's objective behind this control. Understand? So, second example related to the attendance. Second example related to the attendance. Now, in my office, where I'm working as a group head of audit and compliance, it is an internal control. Whenever an employee comes into the organization, he or she should be scanned their face, and then and afterwards he or she can come to their personal office. Okay, so the internal control is that any employee of the organization, whenever comes into the organization premises, he or she should be scanned themselves first and then go to their personal office. So this is the internal control which is placed by the management. Now you people, my students, you tell me what is the control objective behind this internal control? Yes, Medhat Mumtaz, no ghost employee is paid. Very good. Sahar Akram, you are also right. Hashani Murali, you are right. To ensure that only authorized people enter into the organization. And Bilal, to pay as per actual attendance. Yes. Kainat Haider, there is no unauthorized person entering in. Ah, okay. And to identify ghost employees. Unauthorized person, like someone told me that no one can enter the unauthorized person. Basically, this is the right option, but not that exact right, because your authorization was already checked by the security guard. So when the security guard clears your identity, then afterwards you can come into the organization premises and scan your face for the attendance. So what is the correct objective behind this control is that the person will get the salary based on their actual hours worked, which will be calculated by the scan machine. So, what was the objective? Was that the person employee will get only be paid based upon their actual working hours. Yeah, no host employee is to be paid. That's the second objective. So I am just here to give you an understanding about the control objective and what are the internal controls. Remember one thing. Please write down on your notepad. Please write down on your notepad. We are not talking about anything about the financial statements. In internal controls, we are not talking about anything of the financial statements. We are just here we are just here to discuss the entities systems. We are just here to discuss about the organization or entities processes. So that's the main thing which you need to remember. This is a big difference between the internal controls and the substantive procedures. Right now, in today's agenda, we are not discussing the substantive procedures. The substantive procedures will be discussed by tomorrow, but this is the big difference. In internal controls, we discussed only about the organization's internal systems, internal processes, which the management is designed, implemented, and maintained to prevent and detect the fraud. Now, okay, got it. Now, come to the second portion, that is very good, Barbara. Understood. He mentioned that internal controls is equal to organization systems and processes. Yes, that's a very right interpretation. Very good, Barbara. Now, internal controls has five components. In paper, these five components can be given with a new name, with a different name, that is COSO. So you don't need to be confused in the exams. What is COSO? It's just a name of the COSO framework, and COSO framework includes five internal control components. What it means by components? These are the factors. These are the factors which can be impact on the organization's internal, which can be impact on the organization's internal controls. If these internal controls, if these internal components, if these five components will be managed carefully, then this organization has strong internal controls. If these five components will not be managed carefully, internal controls of that organization is not so good. So these components has a directly impact on the internal control environment, on the internal controls. So if now we will discuss each and every component of the internal control, and then you will be able to clarify yourself what is the purpose of internal controls in an organization. You will be able to identify why the organization's internal controls are so weak, what are the reasons behind it, and vice versa. Now we are going to discuss first component, that is control environment. That is control environment. So control environment includes, that's the first component. Control environment includes governance, attitudes. So if the management attitude is positive towards risk controlling, if management has the priority to control the risk, to minimize the risk, then this organization has a internal control, then this organization has a strong internal controls. So if your organization has a strong internal controls, then it means your management attitudes towards risk controlling is very positive. If your organization internal controls are weak, it means your management attitudes towards risk controlling are not positive. Obviously, as you have discussed many times before with someone, or you have read in your books, that on top-down approach, there is a concept of top-down approach. Awareness regarding risk. If the management knows, if the management has the awareness about the risk, what are the advantages of managing the risk? What are the advantages of risk assessment? So, if the management has the awareness, if management knows the pros and cons of risk assessment, then the organization has a strong internal control. If management does not know anything about the risk, then what they will do because they don't know anything about the risk. If anyone don't know about anything, then how he or she uh, can do something about this, about the benefits of the organization. Now, third, controls to be considered at what value. So, what is the management preference? If management has given the value to the controls, or they bypassing the controls on daily basis, because it's all about management. If management is take care of the controls, if the management is doing the care of the controls and doing the compliance of the controls, then everyone in the organization will take care of all the internal controls, of all the policies. So it is about the management perspective, what they think about the internal controls. If they know, if they feel that the internal controls has a value, then everyone in an organization will give the value to the internal controls. Now, next next statement is very important, and I will give you one example. Ethical values. What is the value of be ethical in the eyes of management? What is the value of be ethical in the eyes of management? If you people are ethical and loyal with your organization, with your management, and on the other hand, if anyone who is not ethical, who is unethical actually, so what's the difference between these two in the eyes of management? Now, based on these two sentences, ethical and unethical, I will give you one example. As you know, we have a huge experience in, as I have a huge experience in audit. I was working with the client, and during the internal audit, we identified that then due to the negligence, listen to my example carefully. Due to the negligence of the marketing department, due to the negligence of the employee who was working in the marketing department, organization is going to be suffer from 2 crore rupees in next 6 months. But internal audit department identified this negligence before time, which saves the company from the loss. Obviously, when the management knows the fact, they obviously appreciated the work of the internal audit department. But what was done after the 2 days? That the person who was found who was found negligent in their professional work will be was promoted to the next position, was promoted to the senior position of the organization of the department. So at this stage, the people who is ethical, who are honest and working with the management, what their motivations were at that time, they were totally broken. And on the other side, the person who is unethical as well as who is not honest because of this negligence got the promotion and with the salary increase. So it's all about management. What the management thinks about the ethical and unethical person. So what's the perspective about the management in this organization where I have mentioned the example that management did not do the difference between the honest person and the dishonest person. So everyone in the organization was was demotivated by the management decision. So next, management itself honesty level top down approach. As you know, whatever the policies, whatever the decisions made by the management, everything comes from top to down. So if the management is not honest with their vendors, if the management is not honest with their customers, then why employees will be honest with their employer? Listen to me carefully. If the management is not sincere with the vendors, is not sincere with the customers, then why their employees will be sincere with this employer? Obviously, it's a top-down approach. So all these elements which we have discussed till yet, everything, every element has an impact on the internal controls of the organization. So where the management is not honest, so do you think that the company has strong internal controls? Yes, reply me. If the management is not honest at its level, do you think that the company has strong internal controls? Give me your answer in the question box. Yes, everyone, please. Yes, thank you. Thank you for your attention, guys. Thank you for your attention. Now, commitment to competence. If the management is really competent and they have the commitment to reduce the risk, to prevent from the error and fraud, obviously it will create the impacts on your internal controls. Organizational structure. If the organization has a proper hierarchy, proper JDs, job descriptions, proper organograms, responsibilities defined, then the controls of this organization is good because everyone knows who is responsible to whom, who is working in which department and what level. So the organization has a proper hierarchy, has a proper job descriptions. JDs means job descriptions, organograms, responsibilities is defined so everyone knows what to do and what not to do. So these are all the elements of the control environment. This is the first element of the internal control. So these are all the factors. These are all the factors which really has a strong impact on the internal controls. Whether this impact will create the more strong internal controls, whether these impacts can weaken your internal controls. So this is all about the control environment. So we are going to discuss the second component of the internal control, that is entities risk assessment. The second element of the internal control is entities risk assessment. This is not common in every organization. Entity risk assessment is only be done where the organizations or industries is highly regulated. Like banks, every bank has an entity risk assessment department. Every bank. Maybe every government organization has an entity risk assessment department, but not every company has this department. But what are the benefits of having this component in your organization? The entity risk assessment includes the system for identifying risk, the system for identifying the risk. So the first step is identification, estimating the significance of the risk, their impact, their result, their output. So the second element is the impact. And the third element is the occurrence of the event, occurrence of the risk. Assess the likelihood, how many times this risk can be occur, what's the frequency, or you can say what's the probability of the event. So these are all three elements of the risk assessment. First element is identification of the event slash risk. Then analyzing or estimating the impact, their output, their significance, their damages. So estimating the impact of the risk of the event. Third is assessing the likelihood, whether they can occur or not. If they can occur, what's the probability? What are the chances to occur that event? So identification, impact, and occurrence. This is the sub elements of the entity's risk assessment. And based on all this, we will make the decision what to do and what not to do. So what type of decisions are we are going to discuss now? So what type of decisions are we are going to discuss? Number one is transfer the risk, accept the risk, reduce the risk, avoid the risk. So there are four possibilities what we can do about the any predicted risk. These are the four strategies you can apply for the forthcoming risk. Okay, so we will discuss about the first strategy, that is transfer the risk. When we can do when we can transfer the risk, when the impact of the event is high, the damages of the risk slash event is high, but the chances of occurrence is very low. But the chances of occurrence is very low. The chances of occurrence means the risk, the event can be done somewhere, sometime after a long time. Like if I will give you the example, the fire in the building, the fire in the building, their occurrence is very low, but if that risk will place, then their impact is too high. Fire will damage each and everything of your building. Fire will damage your building. So to transfer that risk, what we do, we make the insurance of that building. So that's the strategy where the event which has the high impact, but the occurrence is very low. So what we can do, we transfer the risk to another company. Like I have given you the example of the insurance company. Okay. Next is when we accept the risk. When we accept the risk, when the entity accepted the risk. So when it will be happen, if the impact is low and the recurrence is also low, matlab both things are in a slow stage. Both things are low. Their impact is low, their occurrence is also low. So when at this time we accept the risk, we accept the risk. So what's the example of this? When the petrol price increase a little bit, transportation department or the transportation industry accept the risk. Suppose there is a very small increase in a petrol price, so there is impact is very low, the recurrence is very low, so the transportation industry accepts the risk and purchase the petrol on a daily basis. So what they think, they accept the risk. Number third is reduce. Number third is reduce. So guys, we are going to the third strategy. Before that, is there any issue? Do you hear my voice? Yes. I'm just confirming during the session that everyone should hear my voice. Very good. Barbara asked the question that internal control does impact the financial statements. It will not impact the financial statement directly, but indirectly. I will tell you in the next slide. So, what is the third strategy, that is reduce? So, when this strategy will be applied, when the impact is low but the occurrence is high. When the impact is low but the occurrence is high. So how we can reduce it? By implementing internal controls, or you can say segregation of duties. Here I can give you the example to further clarify you how we can reduce the risk. As you know, in a purchase department, there is a corruption in a purchase department, but the size of the corruption in the purchase is very low. Any purchaser can made the fake purchase, but the amount of a fake purchase should not be high, will not be high, because he or she knows if the amount of the transaction is on a large scale, then everyone will see that invoice. So the purchaser who is doing the corruption in the purchase, who is the fraudster in the purchase department, never make a purchase invoice with a big amount. So they will always make the fake invoices with a very small amount so that everyone in the organization never bother on these invoices because of the immateriality of the amount. Okay, so but the frequency of making the fake purchases is high, means occurrence is high. It is done on regular basis. It can be done after 5 to 10 days, but their impact is low because the corruption amount, because the fake amount will be very low. It is also mentioned in the forensic auditing concept. I have a specialization in forensic auditing, so it is the same thing mentioned in this course, in that course. That is, the purchaser always try to make the fake purchases with a small amount so that everyone does not bother on the small amount invoices. So when the occurrence is high, it is happening on daily basis, but their impact is low. So how we can reduce it? By doing the segregation of duties, by implementing the internal controls. So what are the internal controls that the organization will place? So in the purchase department, it is assumed to be that the purchaser should be a different person. the booking of the purchases should be a different person, and the person who will make the payment will also be a different person. So everyone has a different responsibility, so this segregation of duties will reduce the risk. So that's the third strategy. So how we can reduce the risk at what scenario? Now, the fourth strategy and the last strategy, that is avoidance, that you can avoid the risk. You will not accept it, you will not transfer it, you will not reduce it, you will avoid the risk. Very interesting. At what scenario you will avoid the risk? You will avoid the risk when the impact is high, when the impact is high and the occurrence is high as well, means both elements are at a high stage. Their damages are high, their occurrences is high. Both things are high. So in that case, we will avoid the risk. So I'm giving you the another example. In that case, that is when you are going to buy the share prices, you have the interest to buy the shares, you have the habit to buy the shares, and you are interested to buy the shares in oil industry. As you know, in COVID-19, the oil prices has been fallen down drastically. So at that time, would you be interested to buy the shares of the oil industry? I will repeat you this example. You have to give me the answer. During the COVID-19, like in Jan to March 2020, oil prices fallen down drastically. At that time, will you be interested to buy the shares of oil? Obviously, you know that. So obviously not at all. Yes, very good. If you will buy the share, oil prices are falling down. Focus on this sentence. Prices are falling down drastically, and during this tenure, if you buy the shares, you will make the loss of yourself because prices are drastically falling, drastically decreasing. So how you can buy the shares? It will create you the loss, it will give you a loss. So obviously at this scenario you will avoid the risk when you definitely know that you are going to be in a big mess. So obviously you will avoid that risk. So these are all the four strategies of the entity risk assessment. Dear listeners, so do you have any question? Karan, it's okay. I understood. Don't worry. Raquel, hi. G. Yes, audience, do you have any question? Give your reply in the question box. I'm seeing each and everyone reply. So I need more replies from your side. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So everyone is attentive. Good. Now we are going for the third component, that is information system. That is information system. This is the third element of the internal control. If your organization has a strong IT system, if your organization has a strong database, if your organization has a proper policies and procedures regarding the storage of the data, the access to that information, the authenticity of that information, who can change, who can edit the information, who can access to that information. If the organization has a proper policies and procedures regarding the information system, from where they are extracting the information for decision making, from where they are storing the data, sorry, from where they are retrieving the data. If the information system is safe, if the information system has a proper policies and procedures, then organizations internal control will be strong. Suppose I will give you an example. Like I'm working in an audit department. I have the access of all the information regarding the organization. I have complete access of all the information, but I can, listen to me, now listen to me. I have complete access of all the information, but this information I can only review. I cannot edit anything in that information. Audit department cannot delete any information. Audit department cannot have the access in edit the information. Audit department does not have any access regarding the changes in the data, regarding the deletion in any data, regarding the addition in the information. So I can only review the information. So this is, what is this? This is the access to that information. Limited access to that information. I can review each and everything, but I cannot change that information in any way. Okay. So suppose accounts department, if we discuss about the controls over the information system. So accounts department, or if I'm talking about the sales department only has the access about their sales. They does not have the access, they does not have the access on the purchases data, on the purchases information. They does not have the access regarding the audit information. So that's the control which are applied on the information system, who is eligible for what type of information. So that's just all about information system. This is very easy. I think you people understand the third component of the information system. Now we are going for the next element of the slide, and that is the control activities. That is the control activities. Here we need to give focus. I need your focus on this slide as well. Uh, I'm going to raise all lines. Okay, the highlighter. Yes. Now, till yet, we have discussed about two things, that is the control objective and the internal controls, where I have given you the proper endorsement. Remember these two elements, that is the control objective and what is the internal control. Now we are going to study Now we are going to study the next element, that is control activities. That is control activities. That is approval and control of documents, control over comprised transactions, segregation of duties, authorizations, and physical access. What all these control activities? I would like to listen from your side. What are these control activities? What are these control activities? I would like to listen from your side. Yes, boys. Yes, guys. I'm waiting for your replies. Do you hear my voice? Yes, I'm getting replies. Yes, yes. Prevent frauds, financial related control, test of controls to maintain good control system. Hmm. Yes, Sahib, you are right. By an appropriate personnel. Yes, this is the right answer from the Awais Akbar. These are the control activities to achieve certain control objective. Control activities help us in achieving the control objective. Please write down this statement. Control activities will help us in achieving the control objective. Suppose we have discussed two examples. One is the entrance at gate, limited access, or second example we have discussed about the attendance. What was the objective behind the internal control related to the security guard placed at the gate? The control objective, if we remember, the control objective was to prevent from the unauthorized access. That was the control objective, to prevent from the unauthorized access. And what is the internal control? Place the security guard at the gate. And control activity help us in achieving that activity, in achieving that objective. But how control activities? So authorization, we use the word authorization. Security guard authorized the person after their clearance so that he or she can so that he can enter into the premises of the organization, so that he can enter into the premises of the organization. So we have authorized that security guard. So control activities help us in achieving the control objectives. Now, don't worry if you will not, if you do not understand, I'm giving you one more example. We have discussed the one example about the purchases. There is a one person who is making the purchases, who is booking the expenses, who is making the payments. So this is the weakness in the system, that one person is completely responsible for each and every transaction. But the organization objective is the purchases should be done competitive. Purchases should be done competitive and genuine. That's the control objective. I am again repeating the control objective of the purchase because it is very important to understand you out here. But we are going to full-fledged exam scenario questions, so don't be worried. The objective of the purchase was, or you can say, management wants that the every purchase should be done competitive and genuine. That's a control objective. Understand? Please, I need your attention here. Yes, yes, you can understand this. What is the control objective? Just give me the reply. Hurry up. Yes, give me a reply. Yes. Okay. So that's the control objective. Now, how you can achieve it? You can achieve it through control activity. So you can achieve it control activity. So what you will do, you will make segregation of duties among the different personnels so that the purchases will be done with transparency. So you have place the internal control, you have placed the internal control with the help of control activity. You have understood what was the control objective. Now you are going to place the internal control. So how you can place the internal control with the help of control activities. So in the purchase department, you will do the segregation of duties among the three different personnels. So that's the internal control you have made by the help of control activity. Or I am going to make another internal control with the help of this control activity. So I will place another internal control, that is each and every invoice should be approved by the finance director. So what I have write down the internal control, that is each and every invoice should be approved by the finance director. So here what we use approval as a control activity to achieve the control objective. Okay, now what you learned till yet, that is the control objectivity. Now, the next step is control activities, which help us in making the internal controls. Got it? Yes, guys. Okay. Now we are going for the, you can say, for the next component. That is the last internal component in an internal control component, which really impact on the internal controls of the organization. So what is the last internal control component? This is a monitoring of controls. So we are going to start this slide, and that is monitoring of controls is a process to assess the effectiveness of internal controls performance over time. So I'm going to repeat one thing so that we can continue to this slide. That is, we have learned control activity, control objective, and internal controls. Now, these are all elements is set up by the management. Till yet, there is no role of audit. There is no role of audit personnel. There is no role of internal audit department. Control objectives need to be set by the management. Control activity and the internal control need to be designed by the management. It's a management role to design, implement the internal controls, all these elements. Now, here comes the auditor role. Here we come to this slide. That's our role. Now we evaluate the internal controls which are set by the management. These are the controls which are set by the management. So inspection of documents. If the management said that we have done segregation of duties and every transaction is approved by the finance director, which we have discussed in the last slide. Okay, this is the internal control which the management has put in place. Now the auditor comes. Now the hero comes to this department, and he will inspect the documents to ensure that all all invoices should be approved by the finance director. If the invoices is not approved by the finance director, it means that the controls are just part of the copy. It is not implemented in the real sense. Okay, if one thing more, I have given you the example of the attendance. The company has set up a control that every employee, when entered into the organization, has to do their face scan. Has to do their face scan. So it's a control which is set up by the management. Now, what to do? Now, auditor will make the test of controls. Now auditor will do test of controls. So what the auditor will do in that scenario? So what the auditor will do in that scenario? Auditor will stand and observe on that place and ensure that every employee is scanning their face. If this is not happening, then the controls of this organization is very weak. Okay, so I will give you one more example. You have to tell me what is the test of control. If the management is placing the control that every employee will face the scan when he or she left the organization. This is the internal control set up by the management. Now, what's the test of control done by the auditor? Now, it's your turn, guys. Yes, come on, give me your replies. Yes, he will observe at the ending of the official time, at the ending of office time, he will observe that every employee is doing the face scan or not. So one thing more I am repeating at this slide, that in internal controls, we only examine the organization's internal processes. We will not discuss about the financial statements. We will not discuss about the financial statements. Yes, another procedure which the Rahul has mentioned, that the inspect the logout report. So what is the logout report? I will tell you. Maybe you people don't know what is the log report. Log report is the IT report which tells us about the name of the persons who has done the who has done the face scan, and who does not scan their face. So this report will help us in identify who is not following the internal controls of the organization. Now, before going to the break of 15 minutes, I will give you the one more information. If the effective controls are in place, it means that your control activity is fulfilling the control objective and vice versa. I will explain you one more thing. If the organization's internal control is not strong, obviously there is a chances of errors. There is a chances of errors can be increased. There is a chances of errors can be increased. So ultimately, due to the weak control, this will impact the financial statements. So this control, weak controls will impact the financial statements, and the misstatements in the financial statements can be increased. So test of controls is necessary for the auditor before applying the substantive procedures. Auditor always do test of controls first. If the controls are strong, they auditor can reduce the substantive procedures. But if the organization's internal control is weak, if the organization's internal control is not following by the management and the employees, so auditor will enhance the substantive procedures, because in weak internal environment, in weak internal controls, there is a chances of errors, there is a increased chances of errors, which ultimately leads to the entered into the financial statements, which has the indirect relation with the financial statements. So that's all about the internal controls and its components. Afterwards, after the break, we will come up with the issues which the students done in the exams, and due to this they are failed. So we will discuss about it, but after the break, we will come after 15 minutes. Okay. So take a cup of coffee or a tea and then come back. I will wait for you. So you people back? Sorry. Do you hear my voice? Okay. So everything is going well, huh? Okay, Halal. Okay, Saqib. Okay. Just going to start in next 15 to 20 seconds. Like students are joining us. Just wait for 30 to 40 seconds or 1 minute maximum. Yes, strength is increasing. WhatsApp group is done. So please, who is not the part of this group, kindly text me. I will add him or her. So please, anyone who would like to become the part of the Practice to Pass webinars WhatsApp group, kindly text me. My number is 923454479990. So kindly text me on WhatsApp so that I can add you. Most of the people are now the part of the group. Now, if anyone is not here, if everyone is not the part of the group, then you can text me. So, in the December 2020 attempt, what can be asked in question? What can be asked in question? First of all, examiner can ask you one thing, that is, what are the key controls are in place? You people tell me, key controls which are in place, it is done by the auditor or by the management. So these are the key controls which are in place. These controls are placed by the management or by the auditor or by the auditor. You can use the chat box as well to give me to give the answer. Yes, management. Everyone is right. So here you need to focus. If the examiner asks you about the key controls which are in place, it means there are some key controls mentioned in your case study which you need to identify and mention in your answer. Okay, listen to me carefully once again. If the examiner asks you about the key controls which are in place in the organization, so suddenly, or you need to remember that these key controls will be given in the question. You just need to identify that key controls, and why it is key control, you have to mention it as well. You have to mention it as well. So here what the students make the big mistake, that is students are easily identify the key controls which are placed in the exams, but does not identify why it is key control, does not identify why it is key control, why it is key control, or you can say advantage. So that's the mistake where the students make the mistake, that is why it is a key control. Students forget to tell this. So when you ask about the key controls, you need to mention two things, the key control and why it is a key control. So what the other thing examiner can be asked in the coming attempt, that is deficiencies in system. So sometimes, even always, you need to mention and you need to identify from the question where are these deficiencies in system. Suppose examiner given you in the question in the case study that there is only one person who is responsible for all the purchases. So this is a deficiency in system. So you need to give the recommendation as a consultant or being an auditor. So what should be your recommendation? That segregation of duties should be applied so that roles and responsibilities will be separated to prevent from the error and fraud. So you need to give the recommendation in the system in the answer. So this is the biggest mistake which the examiner mentioned in their article, that students manage to identify deficiencies, but why it is deficiency and its impact is ignored. So please highlight this, why it is a deficiency and its impact is ignored. So students can give the recommendations. So examiner did not tell anything about the recommendation. So this is okay from the uh, student side. Sometimes sometimes control objective, examiner asks you about the control objective, but it has done a very maybe a one or two time, but this can be tested in the exam. But what are the majorly questions which is tested by the examiner? That is, key controls are in place, deficiencies in systems, and recommendations. So examiner asks you to give an answer on these three topics. Okay, so what are the mistakes which the students done in the exams? Key control are in place. So why it is a key control and slash advantage? Students may forget to mention it. Deficiency in system and recommendation, student manage to identify deficiencies, but why it is a deficiency and its impact is ignored. So this is all about the mistakes. You can take the snapshot as well. This is the mistakes which we need to improve in this session. So today we have a good time to make the practice. Today we have a good time. So we are going to do the practice of the past papers, of the two past questions, which will help you to grip on this topic. So I think we should go for this. Is there any question or ambiguity? You can ask it. I am available. So first we are going to do a question, bronze. Please open the bronze question and bronze answer. This is the handouts which is available right now. You can download it, or if you have already, then you can open it. And further, I'm also going to open it. Wait, today is the second day of this session. Practice to pass, yes, and today is day two. Today is day two. Okay, so this is the bronze and lemon question, and this is the bronze and lemon answer. Okay, I will. So this is a bronze question, Bronze Industries Company. One thing which I told you in the last session, you need to read the requirement first. You need to read the requirement first. So what is the A requirement? This practice will really help you. Please be focused, be attentive. This is the first requirement. Identify and explain 5 key controls which the auditor may seek to rely on in bronze industries. 5 marks. So 5 key controls means 1 mark for each control. 1 mark for each control. If you will not mention the advantage of the key control, if you will mention only key control, you will not give the, if you will not give the complete explanation why it is a key control, then examiner will give you 0.5 mark instead of 1 mark. I am repeating this. 5 key controls, 5 marks, 1 mark for each control. If you will give the answer and mention only key control, if you does not mention the advantages of the key control or why it is a key control, then examiner will deduct 0.5 marks and will give you only 0.5 marks. So you need to mention 5 key controls and their basics and logics of the key control. And what is the B requirement? We will do only A and B requirements. C is not relevant till yet because it is about the substantive procedures. Identify and explain 6 internal control deficiencies in the payroll system. So here you need to extract deficiencies from the question and provide a recommendation. So here the question is about 12 marks. The question is about 12 marks. So 6 marks for deficiencies and 6 marks for recommendation. So you need to mention one deficiency for 1 mark and one recommendation for 1 mark. So here you need to mention the deficiency and why it is a deficiency. This is also you need to mention, which the students majority fail to do so. Now we are going to read the question. You are an audit senior of a Scarlett and company are in the process of reviewing the systems testing completed on the payroll cycle of bronze industries, preparing the audit programs for the audit. So Scarlett and Company is the audit firm and the client name is Bronze. Now we need to mention 5 key controls which is designed by the management. Bronze operates several chemical processing factories across the country. It manufactures 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and employees work a standard shift of 8 hours and are paid 4 hours, worked at an hourly rate. Factory employees are paid weekly, with approximately 80% being paid by bank transfer and 20% in the cash. So the different payment methods are due to employee preferences and Bronze has no plans to change these methods. The administration and sales teams are paid monthly by bank transfer. Okay, wait. Factory staff are each issued a sequentially pre-numbered clock card. This is something control which is designed by the management. Factory staff are each issued a sequentially numbered clock card which details their employees number and name. So employees swipe their cards at the beginning and end of the 8-hour shift. This is the complete key control. So here what you need to mention, just copy this line and paste it on your answer. This is the key control. Here what is the important thing which the auditor needs to mention, that why it is a key control, why it is a key control, what is the advantage of this key control. You people, I'm waiting the reply from your side that the factory staff issued a sequentially numbered clock card which details their employee number and the name. Employees swipe their cards at the beginning and end of a 8-hour shift. So what is the benefit from this control? This is the important area which the student which the student ignore in the exams. So I'm waiting the reply from your side. What would be the advantage by placing this control? No, Salman, we have to mention the key controls. He specifically mentioned the key controls of the organization. He is not asking about the control objectives. Yes, Malik, your answer is right. To ensure employees, this will ensure the employees are only paid for hours that they have worked. To ensure that employees are only paid for hours that they have worked. So this is the right right advantage. This is also the a good advantage that no bogus employee can enter into the payroll system. Okay, so this is the first key control which is placed by the management. Now, what next? If I'm going to read the next lines, during the shift, employee are entitled to a 30-minute paid break, and employees do not need to clock out to access the dining area. This is not the key control. This is a deficiency in system. This is the deficiency in system. Sorry. Next, clock card data links into the payroll system, which automatically calculates the gross pay and net pay. This is another key control. Here I'm mentioning first the key control. So to save the time, you just need to copy this sentence and paste on your answer. Clock card data links into the payroll system, which automatically calculates the gross and net pay along with other any statutory deductions. So this is the key control. Why it is a key control? Now, waiting for the replies from your side. Mention your reply. Hurry, hurry up, boys. Hurry up, girls. Hurry up. This is the key control that the clock card data links into the payroll system, which automatically calculates the gross and net pay along with other deductions. It will save time, Avais Akbar. This is not the right option. Yes, it will ensure accuracy. There is no arithmetical error. There is no human error. Yes, Namra. Yes, but Kainats, you're right. Abrin. Yes, you are also right. Intelligent Hamza. Yes, Amir Hamza. Yes, yes. Ensure the right amount to be paid to employee. Yes, Kristanthan. Sorry if I'm taking the name wrong. Yes, this is the advantage of placing the control. That is the advantage. There is no human intervention, and due to the non availability of the human intervention, calculations will be the accurate, and there is very minimal chance in deducting the deductions wrong statutory deductions. So in simply you can say that there way you can save the time. It is better to mention that this should reduce the risk of employees wages and statutory deductions being incorrect, as there is a reduced risk of errors. Okay, so this is the second key control which you have mentioned with the basic with the logic. Now, what is the third key control? The payroll supervisor for each payment run checks on a sample basis some of these calculations to ensure the system is operating effectively. To ensure the system is operating effectively. So this is the third key control. Now again, the ball is in your court. Tell me why it is a key control. I am waiting for your reply. Kindly mention it in a question box. Yes, Salman. To ensure the integrity of the system are operating effectively and efficiently. Very right answer, very right interpretation. To ensure that the system is operating effectively and efficiently, it will also helps the management to identify if the system is not if the system is working not effectively. So this will helps the management to identify it on time. So this is the right interpretation. Yes, Sahil, if the system is working perfectly or not, this is the right option. Very good, guys. Very good. Now we are going to read the next part of the question, that is next paragraph. Bronze has a human resource department which is responsible for setting up the new permanent employees and leavers. Bronze has a human resource department. Payroll department is mentioned on the above paragraph, and there is a separate department for human resource. So this is the another key control, that the management has a separate department for hiring of the employees and for giving the salaries. So here there is a segregation of duties. So having a segregation of duties between human resource and payroll departments reduces the risk of fictitious employees being set up. So there is a the risk is reduced by doing the segregation of duties between the payroll department and the human resource department. So these are all the key controls which we mentioned in a part, which we should be mentioned in a part. The key control and the advantages or why it is a key control. So our first point is clear. Now we are going to again read the second part, that is identify and explain six internal control deficiencies with a recommendation. So now we are going to identify the deficiencies. This is a very good question, because in this question we have to mention the key controls. So you people will not be confused, because this is a combo question. You need to mention key controls and why it is a key control, and in the part B you need to identify the deficiencies and why it is a deficiency, and with the recommendation. With all these three choices, with all these three factors, you write down the answer. So here we are going to learn this part, that is the deficiencies, why it is a deficiency, and the recommendation. So here we highlight the one deficiency, that employees swipe their cards at the beginning and end of the 8-hour shift. This is a control. Okay. Now, further is, and this process is not supervised. Sorry. So this process is not supervised. So if any employee swipe their card at the beginning and end of the 8-hour shift, but this process is not supervised. So why it is a deficiency? If I am adding this statement, this process is not supervised. So what is the deficiency in the system? So if the process is not supervised, so anyone could swipe the card for another employee which is not present. That is the deficiency. So I'm repeating it again. Any employee can swipe the other cards of the employees which are absent, which are not present, which ultimately this is the this is the deficiency and why it is a deficiency. Okay, now you need to mention the impact. It will leads to increase the cost of the employee. See here, in the deficiency part, student managed to identify deficiencies, but why it is deficiency and its impact. So here is a deficiency that the process is not supervised. Why it is a deficiency? Because any employee could swipe the card of another employee which is absent, and the impact is it will increase the company's payroll cost. So that's the impact. So you need to identify the impact as well. So if we come to the answer, A requirement, I think we have done it. You don't need to read it in the class. Now, B requirement, here I'm going to clarify you. Employees swipe their cards at the beginning and end of the 8-hour shift. This process is not supervised. This is the same thing. You have to copy paste it. It will save your time. Now, why it is a deficiency? This could result in a number of employees being swiped as a present when they are not. This is the why it is a deficiency, and this is the impact. This will increase payroll cost for firms. Now, here you people tell me, is there any ambiguity in solving this question? Do you think it is a difficult question? After the focusing on the structure, after the focusing on the structure, how to write down the answer, do you think it is a technical question? I think it will be a very easy question for you to attempt in the exams. So need your replies on it. Need your replies on it. Yes, need your replies, please. Yes, is it impact would be financial? The question is that the impact would be financial. No, every time it may be not financial. It may be non-financial as well. Sherdil, you can write the question here where you are mentioning. You can write the question here. So, what would be the recommendation for this? Simple. This is the deficiency. Now do it vice versa. Do it the opposite action. Think around the other way. Think around the other way. The process should be supervised, but you need to mention it in a proper way. The clocking in and out process should be supervised by a responsible official to prevent one individual clocking in multiple employees. There is another recommendation identified by the examiner. You need to mention only one recommendation, but here for your knowledge, for your clarity, it is giving two recommendations. Second recommendation is a supervisor should undertake a random check of the employees by reviewing who has logged in with the swipe card and confirming visually that the employee is present. So this is the second recommendation. Now come to the question again. This is the second deficiency which we have highlighted during the reading of the question. During the shift, employees are entitled to a 30-minute break, and employees do not need to clock out to access the dining area. Means the employees does not need to log out when they are going for the break. So this is the second deficiency, that employees do not need to clock out to access the dining area. So that's the deficiency. Now, why it is a deficiency? Now, ball is in your court. I need your feedbacks. Why it is a deficiency? Because it is deficient. Because the deficiency is that the employees could take longer breaks. That the employee could take longer breaks from the time given, that is 30 minutes. So employees take longer breaks and does not come within 30 minutes. This is the vital deficiency system. And what will be the impact? It will decrease the production. It will decrease your efficiency. So decreasing the production and decreasing the efficiency ultimately not a good sign for a company. Okay, yes, sir, that's the right answer. Ricky, production and efficiency, very good. That's the right answer. So yes, this is another correct answer that is given by the Taha Sheikh. Employees will be paid 4 hours that they are not working. Yes, obviously. So if the employee is eligible for a 30 minutes break and he's spending 1 hour in a break, so it is getting excess salary of 30 minutes. So this is a deficiency. Why it is a deficiency and what's the impact? You people understand how to write the answer. Now, what would be the recommendation? So, what would be the recommendation in this part? In this part, that is, so what would be the recommendation? Employees should be allocated set break times, and there should be a supervisor present to ensure that employees only take the break they are entitled. This is the recommendation. So there is another recommendation which you can give, that is management or the auditor should advise the policy that every employee should be logged out when they are going for the break, and again should be logged in when they are returning from when they're returning from the break. So when they are going to the break, when they are coming returning from the break, in both scenario, employee should log in and log out. This is another recommendation which you can give in the answer. Now, again, we are going to the question. This practice will really help you. This practice will really strong your mind. This practice will really reduce your afraid, reduce your fear factor, and you can easily practice the questions at your home. And after this practice, you can easily write down the answer in the exams without any hesitation, without any fear factor. So ensure your presence, ensure your presence for this question practice. Now we are going for the next paragraph. Bronze has a human resource department which is responsible for setting up new permanent employees and leavers. Appointments of temporary staff are made by factory production supervisors. So if the company has a separate department of hiring, then why factory production supervisor is doing hiring? And why the factory production supervisor is doing the hiring? So this is another deficiency. This is another deficiency. And why it is a deficiency? Because there is a chance that the factory production supervisors may not hire the right personality for right person for the right job. This can be a risk. So there is another risk that the supervisor could appoint unsuitable employees and may not carry out all the required procedures for new joiners. So this is the deficiency, and why it is a deficiency, which ultimately leads to company which ultimately leads the company increase in cost, because factory production supervisor, if they will not hire the right person for the right job, company's turnover will be high, which ultimately leads to increase in cost of bronze. So what should be the recommendation for this deficiency? That the recommendation should be that all appointment of staff, whether it is a temporary or a permanent, should be hired by the human resource department. So this is all about the recommendations. So, what do you say? Are we going to complete this question, or should we start the new question? Uh, because the new question has a different taste. So, I need your recommendation. I need your opinion on it. Are we going to continue this question, or should we go for the new question? Because the next question has a different taste. Obviously, it will help you in getting the different exposure. Okay, new question. Hey, yeah, that's the spirit. Yes. Rahul, Barbara, Malik, Ashish, Rabia, Anusha, Zainab. Yes, okay. A majority says that we should go for the new question. So take a 10 minutes break. So we will come back with the new question. Okay, take a break, 10 minutes, then we will come back for the next question and last question. So break for 10 minutes. Now we are going to solve the question equestrian June 17. Okay, this question is tough, and here I will evaluate your skills. Being an examiner, huh? So this is the comeback, please hurry up. So what should we need to do first? That is the reading of the requirement. That is the reading of the requirement. Strength is increasing. We will wait for further 30 to 40 seconds maximum. So we are going to start. First of all, we will read the requirement. We will read the requirement. Describe uh, tools. Yes, describe four different types of control activities. Remember what is control activities, which help us in achieving the control objectives. So, what is our control activities? Uh, I will show you. Yes, these are the control activities. Segregation of duties, authorizations, physical access. Now the examiner, what expect from your side? Uh, this is describe four different types of control activities, and for each type, provide an example control a company may implement. For example, control a company because control activities are used for making the controls to achieve the objectives of the organization. I'm repeating this sentence. You can write down on your paper as well. Control activities are used for making the controls to achieve control objectives. Control activities like segregation of duties, physical access, authorizations, these are all the control activities. So there are four different types of control activities that the examiner wants you to write down on the paper. So this is the first. If we talk about the first control activity, that is segregation of duty. Now you have to describe what is segregation of duty and provide an example. Give example where you can implement this control activity, where you can implement in a real sense. So segregation of duty. What is segregation of duty? Segregation of duty simply tells us that the segregation of the roles and responsibilities between the different employees or among the different departments. So that's all about the segregation of duties. Now, now you can also add in the answer segregation of duty will help us in reducing the chances of fraud and error. Okay, now what the control, you just need to give an example of the control. So you can say that the purchase all the purchase invoices should be received by the purchase clerk, checked by the assistant manager, and approved by the finance director. Here you can give the one example of the segregation of duty. So what you do, you need to mention what is segregation of duties, what is the advantage of segregation of duty, and mention one control of the segregation of duty. Now we will read the answer. You will realize what you need to mention. Assignment of roles and responsibilities to ensure the task of authorizing and recording transactions and custody officers are carried out by different people, which ultimately reducing the risk of fraud and error. So what is the definition of segregation of duty? Where it helps us? And third, you need to mention the control. The purchase ledger clerk recording the invoices onto the purchase ledger and the finance director authorizing the payment of these purchase invoices. So this is all about the segregation of duties. This is the all about the segregation of duties. So what should be the second control activity is, if you talk about the authorization, approval of transaction by a suitable responsible official to ensure that transactions are genuine. So authorization, that there is a one person who is responsible for the authorization of the anything, authorization of the persons, authorization of the invoices. For example, the control is authorization by a responsible purchase official of all purchase orders. Means any purchase order who will be prepared, it will be the only one person who will authorize that purchase order. After the authorization, purchase order will be implemented to purchase all the elements. Suppose I'm giving you my example that I am the only authorized person. I am the only authorized person in my organization that if my signatures will not be on check, the check will not be cleared. The check will not be accepted by the directors of our company, because I am the audit head. I'm managing 12 organizations, 12 units at a time. So any check is made in the organization, it will come to the director after signing myself, after signing my authority. So if the signatures, if my signatures on the check is not present, then the director reject that check. So I am the only authorized person to approve, or you can say to endorse that check, that the payment is authentic and genuine. So this is the example of the authorization. If I will give you the another talk about the another control activity, that is physical control. Physical controls means you just need to mention the generic definition of the physical control, what it means: restricting access to physical assets as well as computer programs and data files. So this is the generic definition. What is the advantage? Advantage is reducing the risk of theft. This is the advantage. So now you need to give the example: cash being stored in a safe which only a limited number of employees are able to access. So this is all about. So this is the first part of the control activities. Now you taste the control activities, you taste the about the requirement of the key controls. If the examiner asks you about the key controls, so what should be mentioned, we have examined it. If the examiner asks you about the control activities, what need to be mentioned in the answer, we have examined it. Now we are going to discuss the B part of this question, and the B part of the question is, so 20 marks question total. So I think you should gain maximum 15 to 16 marks in this question. It is a very easy question. There is no difficulty. There is no any technicality in the question which will fall you in the confusion or pressurize you. This is just about the a little bit creativity you need to show in the exams. You should be open in the exam and just write down your answers and support your answers with the strong logic. Now, if you will get the you will face the question of audit risk based on 30 mark. If you get it done rightly, you are able to score 20 to 25 marks in the audit risk question very easily. If I will, if I will, if I assume the worst scenario, you should be able to get 20 marks from the audit risk question. And if you get the 15 marks in internal control question, so you can imagine you got 35 marks out of 50. So it will be very easy for you to get the remaining 15 marks from the 13 mark section from the MCQ section and the remaining one question of 20 marks. So how it is easy for you if you tackle the audit risk question and internal control question very rightly in a very logical manner, then you are very like you have a big chance to succeed in the exams. So we will focus on all critical areas, but I'm just highlighting the importance of the audit risk question and the internal control question. So please try to manage maximum marks in this 50 mark section, 30 and 20. And then you will have a section of a section which includes 30 marks, 15 MCQs. So if your MCQs like 10 MCQs is right out of 15, you will get 20 marks from the A section. You will get 20 marks from A section and 35 marks from these two questions. So you are already passed if you tackle these two questions and the MCQs. But you will also have the option. You have a another question which really also help you in getting the marks. So now we are going to read the requirement of the question, that is identify and explain 8 deficiencies in equestrian company internal controls, 8, and provide a recommendation. So 8 deficiencies, 8 recommendations, total 16. So you have a 16 mark requirement. 8 for deficiencies and 8 for recommendations. Now we are going to study the question and realize what the question is. Equestrian company manufactures smartphones and tablets. Its main customers are retailers who then sell to the generic public. The company manufacturing is spread across 5 sites and goods are stored in the 9 warehouses located across the countries. And you are an audit supervisor of baseball. The name of the company is Baseball. Audit firm name is Baseball. And in preparation for the forthcoming audit for the year ended 30th June 2007. You are reviewing the following notes your audit manager has provided with you with the relation to the company internal controls. So this is just a generic information. There is no need to review it again and again. Now, here the question comes. Equestrian company has a small internal audit department. During the year internal audit, started a program of physically verifying the company assets and comparing the results to the non-current assets register, as this type of reconciliation had not occurred for some time. For some time. Remembering to identify the keywords. To date, only 15% of assets have had their existence confirmed. Existence confirmed. Only 15%. So this is the problem. This is the first deficiency in system. And what is the deficiency? Just copy paste that the internal audit started a program of physically verifying the company's assets and comparing the results to the non-current asset register, as this type of reconciliation had not occurred for some time. To date, only 15% of assets have had their existence confirmed. So only 15% of the assets has the existence, remaining 85% does not have the existence. So this is the deficiency. Why it is a deficiency? Because assets does not has existence. This is the reason of the deficiency, and the impact is which ultimately leads to overstatement or understatement of the non-current assets in the financial statements. Do you understand what I said? That deficiency is that the 15% of assets have had their existence. Why it is a deficiency? Because 85% of the 85% of the assets does not have the deficiency, does not have the existence, which ultimately leads to the misstatement in the non-current assets. So, guys, do you understand the complete deficiency, the reason of deficiency, and the impact of deficiency? Good, Fairdale, you got it. Thank you for your acknowledgement. Anyone else? You know what a teacher expects from you? I need just acknowledgements. I just need your attendance. I just need your attentiveness. Nothing else. I am not, I do not have any other expectations. So your acknowledgement really motivate me. Thank you. Thank you for your again feedback. So now we are going for the recommendation. We are going for the recommendation. So now the ball is in your court. What should be the recommendation of this deficiency? What should be the recommendation to cover this deficiency? So the recommendation should be that internal audit department should complete the exercise, should complete this exercise even if they require more staff, but this exercise should be done, and if any asset does not confirm its existence, it should be adjusted. Again, this exercise should be checked completely, should be done completely. Even if audit department need more resources, management should give the extra resources to complete that assignment. If any asset does not confirm its existence, then the relevant amount should be adjusted in the non-current assets. So this is all about the first deficiency. Now, during the next paragraph, during the year, Equestrian Company conducted an extensive reorganization of its manufacturing process to improve efficiency. Due to the significant number of employee changes required, the human resource department has been very busy and eased their workload during this period. So the payroll department has assisted. So this is the deficiency. Deficiency is payroll department and there are two departments, HR department and payroll department. But HR department is busy. Due to this, the payroll department has assisted by setting up new employees who have joined the company. So this is the deficiency system. And why it is a deficiency? Because it is lack of segregation of duties. Very good, Hamza. It is lack of segregation of duties. So the payroll department, who is responsible for giving the salaries, are now also setting up the human resource. They are also doing the hiring. So this department, there is a risk that the payroll department can set up a fake employee, because this is the department who is responsible for giving the salaries, and if the same department who is giving the salaries are now have the authority to hire the employees, so this department have the higher chances to set up a fake employee and giving them salaries for a long intervals. So this is the deficiency, the reason for deficiency and their impact. Now, what should be the recommendation? This scenario was tested in the last question as well. So what should be the recommendation? That the HR department should be involved in the hirings, and if they require any resource, management should be given, but the new HR but new hiring should be done by the relevant department, which is HR department. So this is all about the recommendation. Actually, what is recommendation? If we talk about the recommendation is the opposite of the deficiency. So you don't need to think extraordinary. Just opposite, just see the deficiency and write down it an opposite way. So here, during the year, the human resource department has been busy. Therefore, the payroll department has set up new joiners to the company. This is a lack of segregation of duties. This is a sentence copy paste from the question. If the examiner is doing this, then why you are not interested to do this? Just copy down, just copy paste it. This is a lack of segregation of duties, as employees are also able to set up new joiners in the payroll system and process their pay. This leads to an increased risk of fictitious duplicate employees being set up. Okay, this is the structure of the internal control question. Now, what should be the recommendation? Simply, the HR director should, as a matter of urgency, review the workload of the department to assess whether other tasks can be reprioritized, as payroll should cease to set up new joiners. This role must immediately revert back to HR to undertake. You can write down another recommendation, but here, according to the marks, you need to mention only one requirement. Okay, now just we are continue and we will see one more risk, and then we will wrap up this session. Okay, a new sales ledger system was introduced in May 2006 and will continue to be run in parallel with the old system. Okay, very good. This is a good thing. Will continue to be run in parallel with the old system until internal audit has completed its checks between the two systems. Very good. New customers obtained by the sales team. New customers, this is the deficiency, because the starting of the sentence will tell you that something is going to be happen. New customers obtained by the sales team are required to undergo a full credit check. This is a very good control. On the basis of this, a credit limit is proposed by sales staff and approved by the sales director. Segregation of duties is maintained. Very good system is maintained. And these credit limits remain static in the sales system. Means if the new customer is obtained by the sales department will verify their credit limits, decide the credit limits, but will not change according to the time. Means after 5 years or 10 years, the credit limits remain the static. That's the deficiency in the system. Maybe the credibility of the customer will not good after 5 to 10 years. Suppose the credit limit of the customer will not good because their company was in losses and this client is not able to give your amount payback. So this is the deficiency. Now we will read the answer. Anybody tell me why it is a deficiency? This is the last time I am asking from you. So what should be the deficiency? We will see in the answer, but before that, I will check your feedback. My question is that the credit limit is remain static. This is the deficiency in the system. Why it is deficiency and its impact? I need replies on this. Yes, but Githani, you are right. The customer may have suffered loss in business, may not be able to pay. So there is a possibility. Namra, Mumtaz, you are also right. Yes. Okay. Now we read the requirement. We read the answer from the kit from the examiner. New customers undergo a credit check, after which a credit limit is proposed by the sales staff and approved by the sales director. Same sentence from the question he pegged it. These credit limits are not reviewed after this. This is the deficiency, and why it is deficiency? Or over a period of time, it may be that the customer's credit limits have been set too high. This is why it is a deficiency, leading to our irrecoverable debts or too long leading to a loss of sales. So this is the impact. So you need to mention three things in the deficiency. One thing is what is deficiency, why it is deficiency, and its impact. I am saying this again and again so that my sentences will always be in your mind and you will not ignore it in this coming attempt. So what are the three things? Mention in the question box, please. What is the three things? What is deficiency? Why is deficiency? And its impact. Now, we will read the recommendation. Credit limits should continue to be approved by the sales director. However, on a regular basis, the sales director should review these limits based on order history and payment record. So, this is all about the today's session in which we have discussed the internal controls, components of internal controls, and what are the control objectives, control activities which help us in making the controls, and the deficiencies and the recommendations. We have done the practice of two questions, proper structured questions. So I'm confident that you people got the grip on this topic. So this is the last question. Need your feedback on this question box, and then I will tell you one thing, which is the last thing. So give me your feedback. Are you able to understand the topic? Are you able to get maximum marks in the coming attempt? Need your feedback, please. Everyone, please share your feedback. Thank you, Asif. Thank you, Ismay. Thank you, Ishad. Thank you. Yes, I would recommend you. It's my recommendation. It's not a hard and fast rule. I always prefer BPP kit. Even myself, I pass the exams from the BPP kit because BPP. I will just give you a crux. If you are going to attempt the theoretical based paper, BPP will be preferred. If you are going to give a numerical related paper, then you should focus on Kaplan. So this is all about the crux. So one question is given in handouts, which you need to be done in at your home. That's the question. Name is Lemon. You can do yourself at your home. And now session is going to be in tomorrow's agenda is the substantive procedures. We will discuss it tomorrow. After closing the session, feedback option will appear in front of you. Please give your feedback like you are able to understand the topic. Give your feedback. I'm confident that you people uh, you people are able to get the maximum marks specifically in the audit risk section and in this internal control topic. So take care of yourself. We will meet you tomorrow at the same time. Keep remembering me in your prayers. God bless you. Inshallah, you will succeed in the coming exams. I will be with you. Everyone is with you. We will work together as a team. So, finally, goodbye. Take care of yourself. Stay at home. Allah Hafiz. Goodbye.